you so much for joining us for our July Farm Hill Neighborhood Association meeting. I'm happy to be here with each of you. And I don't see any of our new neighbors on. So do we want to go with introduction? Do we want to do our neighbor introductions, or do we just want to do our introductions for our guests? What would you like to do, Gail and Chris and Regina?
I don't know. What do you think, Gail?
I don't know. Well, do we all know each other?
I think so, right? Okay, perfect. So Mike, would you like to start with introductions, and we could go with Sean and Engine 12 and then Darren, please.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Michael Elhihi. I'm a firefighter here in Redwood City. I'm the current union president, and appreciate you having us here today. And I'll introduce some of our firefighters. I'll let Joe Murphy speak for his crew, but go ahead, Joe.
I'm Joe Murphy. I'm the captain of Engine 12 on A shift.
My name is Josh Strawn. I'm the paramedic engineer on A shift with Captain Murphy. Nice to meet you all.
Firefighter Mike Mungray. Nice to meet all of you guys.
Thank you for being here.
And Sean.
Good evening. My name is Sean O'Connor, a fire prevention officer with Redwood City Fire Department.
Hi, Sean.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Darren Aston. I'm the Communications and Community Engagement Analyst for the City Manager's Office.
Great. All right. Well, we're so happy to have our firefighters here with us this evening. You know, as we in Farm Hill know, we had that big incident up at, the Edgewood Park area off of 280. And I think that experience gave us an opportunity to look at things, how we can maybe do things better, how we can improve our communication, and also learn what we can do to help prevent fires in our neighborhood, because we are so susceptible to fire. So if we could just start with the brief update on, what happened with the Edgewood and Colton fires, and what that was like that day, and then any experiences that we can take with us moving forward, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'll go from Engine 12. We were the crew that was on duty that day. So it was hot. We do remember that. So it was a high fire danger day for us. And for us, that means that we're going to have our patrol truck in tow with us on any calls that we go on for something that might come up like that in our district or in the hills of San Carlos. This call was in actually Woodside's district. So it was a little out of our normal response range. And for us, just the main thing was access. Trying to find where it was and getting access to it with our fire engines and the crews coming in. So there was multiple incidents that day that kind of came in around the same time, different locations. And I think the communication for us was trying to figure out which one was going on and were they all tied together, which we eventually realized shortly thereafter, they were all one bigger incident, but kind of three separate events that were happening within it. Yeah, beyond that, it was just for us getting resources in. My crew and I kind of diverted from our initial call because we saw a large column of smoke that was different from the area that some of the other calls were going to, and kind of where units were being directed. So we made a decision to go investigate it after we kind of talked and figured it out. And then we took some action by getting some hose on the ground quickly and trying to slow the spread of the fire as much as we could. We got very lucky with the weather. It was super hot. The topography was steep. The footing was challenging for the three of us, but we were able to slow it down relatively well on the initial attack because we didn't have any wind. So we were very, very fortunate that day to not have wind. And for us, it was just getting as many resources to the right places. Further up on Mesa, the access up there was very, very tight. Everywhere in the hills for us is tight, and we're cognizant of that here in 12. It's something that we talk about. You guys will see us driving around frequently. We try to drive around as much as we can in the daytime so we can see the challenges that we're going to have, especially once it goes dark. Well, that was the biggest thing. We had excellent support from CAL FIRE and their air attack. So that was huge for us, keeping it from running up the other side of the hill and being more of a threat to the homes.
Yeah, I know, it was absolutely incredible. I happened to be driving on 280 and I was one of those cars that people said, I can't believe those people are pulling over. Well, one of those people was me. And so I pulled over and I was able to capture some photographs that I think they used in the Redwood City Pulse. But it was just amazing the way that fire, it was so close to the PG&E transformers. And I kept thinking, oh my goodness, that's like all of our electrical infrastructure right there, right? Like,
Yeah.
and the amazing job that you did in that excruciating heat. I mean, it was excruciating. I can't even imagine what it must have been like with all that gear. My car read 103 degrees when I was on the 280 right across there, right across from the transformers. And then, you know, just under those conditions, those horrible, horrible conditions. And watching the planes come in and the helicopters come in, I mean, it was really an impressive operation. And I know that we are all grateful for your efforts to maintain, you know, to contain the fire, because it really could have gotten really ugly, you know, into those homes. And, you know, there are residents who live up that way. And they mentioned that there was a big explosion just prior to that. And I wonder, has there been any verification from PG&E or from the investigators on whether or not it was a PG&E, that there was some explosions up there?
As far as my crew and I, we haven't heard anything about that. There were PG&E reps on site, but as far as a cause or anything like that, we have not heard anything in regards to that.
Okay,
So it was tough for us because whatever happened knocked the power out in this greater area. So our dispatching system was affected by that. And so we were kind of piecing things together as well on our way to the call and hearing the different radio traffic of basically 3 events within one major incident. So it wasn't very clear for us either. I feel that some of the first responding units in various areas, they were kind of all coming up on the things, not knowing necessarily what we were exactly going into. We were kind of getting vague areas, not necessarily anything specific, because it was just such a challenging area up there to get to.
Now, was it like a concerted effort? Was it like a plan, like we need to preserve this infrastructure, or was it just going in that we need to just contain the fire? Like, how does that work when you arrive to the scene and you say, oh my, because I think it's pretty extraordinary where the fire happened, that it was so close to all this infrastructure. So was there an intentional effort to protect that, or was it just the way that the fire was moving, or what did that look like?
A little bit of both. It was kind of we got together, the 3 of us, and this was, again, only the area that we were working in, which was off of Rocky Way. We kind of assessed the threat to the structures. And like I said, the biggest thing we had going for us was that there was no wind. Had there been a 5-10 mile an hour wind, I don't know if our actions would have been the same. We're always considering where the fire is going, the direction that the fire could be pushed, and what's on the other side of that. So our biggest concern, and Josh, my paramedic, has extensive experience in the Forest Service. So it was me running by him, making sure that we had a good plan and that we could be aggressive. We knew we couldn't stop everything in the area that we were in, but we could be aggressive and definitely slow it down to help it from getting in that canyon and then preventing it from blowing up. We're aware of the weather in this area. We're aware of the afternoon wind changes. We just got very, very lucky that day that everything was working for us and not against us.
Yeah, thank goodness. Now, is there anything that Josh wants to share about his experience in the Forest Service and add anything additional to the role that played that day? And it's okay if you don't want it.
He loves to talk to you, and it's perfect.
Okay, all right.
Anytime I get to brag about myself, right?
Okay.
No, I was so yeah, I did like 9 years with the Forest Service and traveled all over the United States, specifically for wildland fires. And the big thing that I've tried to pass on to guys when we start talking about experience or dealing with wildland fires is how dynamic these incidences can be and how dynamic we need to be, right? Nothing's set in stone when you go to any kind of suppression tactics. And so to reiterate what Captain Murphy's saying is that we really got lucky with where the fire was and how it was presenting with us. And usually fires in light flashy fuels, which is usually grass and underbrush. When you get a little bit of wind on it, the fire intensity is fast, hot, and you kind of are chasing it. But what we saw when we first got there was that it was holding up on a small little ridge. It was mainly burning through grass. We had a pretty much 100% consumption in anything that was burning. So our, what we call a safety zone, was very good for us. And so, sizing up the size of the fire and seeing what we need to do to get control over this became very clear to us that we could go direct. And direct means we go right on the fire line as close as possible to the fire and put it out with water and hose lines as we progress, right? But for that, you're always trying to prioritize, and your priorities change with fire behavior. And so like a protection of the infrastructure of the electrical component for the PG&E thing is great, but that's kind of like their jurisdiction. If that's going to burn, like they know what to do. We're not going to put it out if it's burning. And maybe we can, if it was closer, we could get engines down by where where the big substation is to protect it with water and as a point protection kind of thing. But our big thing is keeping the fire out of certain geographical regions of that park area to prevent it from getting any bigger or getting any more dangerous. And so one of the things for us was keeping it out of more heavy brush to where it could burn up a drainage up into the community. And that with topography, wind, and heat, that if it gets established somewhere low, fire is going to take the path of least resistance and go up. And air and wind funnels up drainages, and that's where it gets more intense and more active. And so for us to prioritize keeping it out of there to save homes and to save and to keep it small was a good priority on both flanks, right? Because we split it up left, right, left. We needed more personnel there. We can do less over here, but still a second priority because there's still homes, still structures threatened. So it's really just getting an eye on it and triaging the situation and being dynamic and being able to know when it's time for us to where we've overextended and we need to reassess the situation.
Now, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
How many firefighters were on duty, or how many firefighters responded to that incident?
I believe this event went to 6 or 7 alarms.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, I got told this weekend at the 4th of July by one of our battalion chiefs, I think it was the 2nd or 3rd largest grass fire incident in Redwood City's history, or the county history. Acreage wasn't a ton, it was about 20 to 25 acres, but the amount of resources there to protect the homes because of where it was located, I believe it's gone down to the top 3 in the county. So we didn't realize that.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. And under those unbearable conditions too. I mean, that's really amazing. We were all, I know many of us were praying for you guys out there, hoping that no one was going to get injured. So we hope that everybody made it out safely. And so can you talk a bit about what worked that day and what didn't as far as the community goes? Like, a lot of us had no power, right? So just like when we were up here at this house, Chris and I were here when the big Santa Rosa fire happened and in the middle of the night. And so we were impacted here by that. And we learned from that experience that when you lose power, you lose internet, you lose which means you lose phone nowadays, you lose everything. So it's very difficult to communicate with the community. So what would you say, what in your opinion, or what worked well that day, what didn't work, and how can we improve, especially around evacuations? Like, what could we do as a community to assist you for like more timely evacuations or like that?
I think it's a challenge everywhere where, you have kind of the urban wildland interface. When you're recommended to evacuate, you really need to start that process of moving forward, because the hard part for us is coming through. And if the situation were to get worse, and if homeowners are deciding to kind of stay and hunker in, now we're kind of taking our priority off of the firefight and protecting areas, and we're worried about people. So that's where it does get challenging for us. Up in that area, we didn't hear a ton of the radio communication because we had a separate TAC channel for us that was for suppression firefighting. But some of the things that we did hear towards the end of the event were just how tight the neighborhoods were. I know Redwood City PD sheriffs were up there, and they were coming up with a plan of kind of a flow of traffic to get out of that area. Because where we were, there was only one or two streets to get in and out. And some of those were very, very tight, and it's hard. When we first came into Rocky Way, we had a resident run up and said she had horses. Should we evacuate? And it was an immediate yes, primarily because of what she had. And we knew there was going to be more fire resources coming in. So that was her chance to get her horses in the trailer out of there. And we try to be cognizant of that. That was one of the things I communicated in that particular area for everybody to stay out, because there wasn't a lot of area to turn around. And like Josh referenced, if we weren't able to have a strong anchor point, our biggest concern is us getting out of there, being able to turn the fire engine around. As you know, they're big and not easy to maneuver in the tight streets. So we have to have an exit plan for ourselves to get out of there if we have to cut and run. But exact what worked and didn't, I know the alerting system worked well. I had a lot of friends and family and some family members of friends, and I was getting all kinds of texts throughout the incident. So whatever they were on, whatever apps they were on, there was a lot going out, because it seemed like everybody knew what was going on pretty quickly.
I think it's on that new county system. Is that right, Darren? They use the new county system. I'm forgetting the name right now.
I'm not actually sure what system is used. The way that happened I don't think it went through the correct system on that day. So that's something that we're working towards to make sure that works for the next time.
So it came out around COVID time. I'll ask Chris when he's done with his other meeting. So there was so that did go out. But I just wonder, like, how would we, for the older folks who don't have iPhones, who are sitting up in their homes and may not realize or smell smoke until it's late, and they are a little slower, they have mobility issues. Like, how could I, as a the representative for the neighborhood, better prepare folks, maybe by having a meeting or something, a telephone tree. I don't know what would really work. But that area up there is very steep. And now, after being caught up in this fire up here, I'm always, wherever I go now, I look to see, okay, this is one road, it looks beautiful, but how do I get out? That's like, once you experience that, you never stop thinking that way. And I think a lot of our neighbors aren't used to that, have never experienced anything like that. So, and certainly animals and medications, I was trying to put out, if, take your medicine, what to take with you. But all in all, please know that, we are certainly grateful for all of your efforts and everything you did that day and what you do every day. So thank you so much.
We appreciate your support as well. I think a lot for friends and family that live kind of in that area, it's, we were so ingrained growing up about earthquakes and being prepared and having kits. I think anybody that lives up in this area can kind of think the same way with the fires. I think that would be an easy way to kind of plan for them, as far as kind of having a go bag, medications, and those things close by, especially during this time of year.
Thank
I
you.
have to say PG&E was very good with giving information as to power outages and updating all the time.
Yeah. Gail, did you have any questions?
Well, first I want to thank our firefighters. They're heroes. It's really great. I was wondering if I'm not really sure where the fire was. Is there like a map on a website that you could see what area actually burned?
Joanne, if you screen share, I can pull up a map and show everybody here.
Sure.
And I had one other thing to say. We are really lucky. We have an EV and we got an inverter and we are able to use our EV to power the refrigerator or whatever else we need. So it's just another plug for people to get out of gas burning vehicles and get an EV. It'll save you in an emergency.
That's a very good point. Thank you, Gail. Are you able to share, Mike?
Yep, I'm pulling it up right.
Perfect,
now.
perfect.
Okay, can you see the map?
We can. Thank
Okay,
you.
do you see my cursor or no?
Yes.
Okay, so Captain Joe Murphy was talking about two names, Colton Court, which is right here. And then he was talking about Rocky Way, which is right here. So this is the area right around here. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cap. This is the area that was burning, this green area.
And is this Woodside or Redwood City?
So I'll zoom out for you here so you can see.
It's
So right here is
a little bit of both, actually.
right here.
Yeah, the whole area, it's right on that border of Redwood City, Woodside County. It kind of all blends together. Yeah.
So here's Edgewood, here's Jefferson. So right here would be those PG&E plants you see from 280.
Right.
So the fire was in this area right over here.
Wow.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it was pretty amazing to see. Now, Sean, do you want to go over some quick tips on what we can do, living up in that area? What can we do to help, build defensive space or keep, how can we assist you in an emergency by doing our share of the work in advance? What can we do?
Of course. Well, thank you so much. And I'd like to tag along as far as what Joe, Captain Murphy said as well about being prepared. In a situation like this, having done disaster preparedness, thank goodness no one was in, no homes were lost in the fire. But this is an opportunity for us to really take a look at what you can do to prepare for the next one. It's a very real situation that occurred. So having a go bag is absolutely critical. What if you're told to go in 10 minutes, 1 hour, or 10 hours, right? I anticipate that. And one of the things I've always taught is if you anticipate situations, have a plan for it and document that plan. Be ready for that. And then, understand that that's what you may need to do. In terms of defensible space fire prevention, it's all about vegetation management and keeping combustible items from directly around your home. And there's a whole lot of information on the internet with this. The one good reference I would recommend is Living with Fire, San Mateo County. If you Google that, tremendous website that offers specific information. I can give some information today. One of the most recent pieces they found is that within 5 feet of your home, nothing combustible. And so for the example I always give when I look at homes is a lot of folks maintain their home surrounded by mud. Unfortunately, that would be a combustible fuel for embers to could then start a fire. If you have gravel or something that's non-combustible, those embers don't have the opportunity to then grow. So that's most critical, but then it goes out from there. As you get further away from your home, there's different strategies you can do as far as keeping your grass low. Obviously, it's a drought. We can't perhaps water as much as we would want to. So keeping the grass very low cut to the ground so that, as Josh mentioned, you don't want to get the heights of those flames because that's what gives the fire energy. And then the other piece is what's called ladder fuels. You don't want to have opportunities for the fire to go from the ground up into the trees because as it gets into, as they mentioned, the thick brush, it spreads much more rapidly. And so that's kind of a quick overview. The standard is 100 feet of defensible space from your home, but let's be realistic. We don't all have 100 feet from our house to our neighbor's house. And so, keep it clear to your property line. But Living with Fire, San Mateo County is a tremendous resource and gets into very much specifics. And I am always available. I'm happy to share my email. If anybody would like to email me particular questions, I can provide documentation and links to information that they can use to help protect their home.
That's fantastic. Would you mind putting your email in the chat?
Sure, I will put that
Okay,
in.
great. So, yeah, so here's a kind of a question that like bleeds over to another area. So let's say you happen to live next to somebody who either for physical limitations or because they just simply don't care, they let things get totally out of control, and you're like just praying that no sparks ever go by their place. Now, is there some sort of ordinance other than just regular code enforcement that's related to like fire prevention or fire safety that can get that moving quicker? Do you know how that would work? I mean, it's always nice to offer to help your neighbor to clean up, but if your neighbor's not willing to clean up, and it places everybody else at risk.
And that definitely is a challenge. So in the Emerald Hills, if everyone's aware, that's what's called a very high fire hazard severity zone. And that is based on what's called CAL FIRE does hazard mapping. And so because of that area, a specific ordinance applies that allows the fire department to do inspections and enforcement. However, we can't just knock on your door and say, you have to cut this tomorrow, right there. As you mentioned, code enforcement is the process by which we have to go about that. This is a tremendous opportunity for the community. Obviously, if you have someone who's not able to do the work, like you mentioned, offer to do the work. Ultimately, if the individual is not willing to do that, there are steps that we can take. The path we always choose or prefer is education, right? And we educate as to this is the very real risk which you face and the danger to which you pose by these actions. And so we go that route very much so. And occasionally you need enforcement, and we have tools available for that as well.
That's wonderful. That's great. I'm glad that we have something like that on the books too, because there are issues, it's more than just leaving your garbage can out past Wednesday, or, that these are really life and death issues, and they impact all of us. So I just want to say thank you to each one of you for being here tonight. I appreciate your service. I appreciate everything you do to keep our families and us safe and our homes safe, and know that we always are keeping good thoughts for you guys to be safe. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Have a good meeting.
Too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So next up on our agenda is TK, and I believe Adrian's going to be joining us as well. And this was a topic that was requested at our last meeting. It was Leslie and her husband were asking about, there was issues with street sweeping and how the calendar wasn't matching with when the vehicles were coming. And also they wanted to know about like when our trees are watered, our public trees. And they had some issues around that. So if we could, is it going to be TK, or is it going to be Adrian that will start? Thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Joanna, and good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Terrence Joe. I'm a Director of Public Works, and along with me, Adrian Lee, our right-of-way superintendent. His division manage street sweeping and everything related to the street. So before I move on, I want to tag along the fire department presentation about the managing the wildland fire near your property. So some of the property adjacent to your property might be a city-owned property, just like parks or the water reservoir or things like that. So we have a regular program to managing vegetation during the dry months, March, April, May, June, and July, things like that. But if you see something that, something happened, maybe tree branch maybe broke down and then just start to dry. And if you see something like that, this is a fire hazard, and then you can always put it through the My RWC app or the calling City or Redwood City Public Works. Just tell them, hey, tree branches, broken down and now they're drying up and it's becoming a fire hazard. Because we don't have a manpower to 24/7 monitoring what is going on, all these city-owned properties. So message from the community, see something, say something, definitely helps. And also the issue that you previously mentioned, like some privately owned property that property owner are unable to do, maybe elderly, or they might be financially difficult to have it, cleaner come in and remove so much amount of debris and things like that. We can definitely work with neighborhood association that, someone from neighborhood association want to volunteer and get into the private property and remove the debris out of their private property and bring it up onto the street. Redwood City Public Works is willing to pick it up from the street instead of you have to haul it away to, landfill or the transfer station, which is going to cost money, right? But the only thing that is, we are the city employee, we cannot get into somebody else's private property to manage the vegetations and things like that. So these are the kind of like opportunity that we can work with neighborhood association and helping community, those who are in need. So that's kind of like pass it on to.
That is an excellent service that the city provides, and I had no idea that that was offered. So I'm going to do a blog post on that to let everybody know that that's something that if they see a neighbor that needs some help and maybe they can help pick it up, but they don't have a truck. I mean, that's excellent. That's a true partnership. Thank you.
Definitely, because of the majority of costs is not that remove the debris from the private property to put it on the street. Actual debris, that actual disposal and the transportation are true costs in there. So we have a trucks and we have a manpower and then we have a place to dispose. So those are kind of like opportunity for the community as well. So thank you. This is a good segue into it. So let's talk about street sweeping. So street sweeping. City of Redwood City used to use an internal workforce to do the street sweeping, but like several years ago, part of the budget reduction, and at the time, we had found the opportunity to use an outside street sweeping outfit to do the street sweeping. So at the like downturn of the economy 2009, 2008 era, we only sweep once a month in the neighborhood. And then, as the economy get better and the council allocated a little more funding for the street sweeping. So we are sweeping twice a month for every neighborhood in the calendar. The calendar that we provided on the website is, as I would say, like 95% accurate, but there is some movement to it. So those movements are like a holidays, basically. So, like we all take a holidays, and so as a contractor take holidays. So they kind of like switch the move around. So those are the kind of like some of those things that variable that community can see. Okay, I look at the website, do a calendar, said I'm gonna get street sweeping on Tuesday. Now it's not happening. What is happening? Because of some holiday that shift the street sweeping schedule. And I think like I wanted to give Adrian a little bit of opportunity to explain more detail about those shifts that are happening, because what I just mentioned to you is very high level. And Adrian, if you don't mind, edit on any additional variable that we see on the street sweeping program.
Oh, no, thank you, Terrence, and good evening, everyone. My name is Adrian Lee, as Terrence mentioned. I'm the superintendent over Right Away. So yes, as Terrence mentioned, one of the causes of a shift would be holidays, and in a typical residential neighborhood will be swept twice per month currently, and for Farm Hill, I think it's the first and third Wednesday or the first and third Friday, depending on which route you're on. And if one of those days happens to fall on a holiday, what we'll try to do is we'll try to schedule makeup sweeping, and that usually occurs kind of on the fifth week of the month. So, for example, if you get swept on the first and third or second and fourth day, if there's a fifth week in the month, that's kind of an extra week, a bonus week, and that's when we generally try to do sweeping of areas that might need additional sweeping because of leaf fall or because of the holidays shifting. That's primarily the plan shifts. Occasionally, I know there has been a scheduling snafu in the past where especially when the contractor brings on new drivers, they sometimes mix up the route. So I know that was happening for a little bit, and I think that might be what you had kind of alluded to. It happened a little while back, and once we were notified, we talked to the contractor and made them aware, and the drivers I corrected it. I haven't heard anything since. So.
Well, that's good news. I know that one of our residents, how when the roads get paved over and over, sometimes it creates like a divot, like between your driveway and the street. And so they put out this big, I don't know if we want to call it a board or a ramp, so they can, drive on without scraping. And so on street sweeping days, they lug it out of the street for street sweeping because they want it to be swept. And so I guess it's a pretty large contraption. So they were like, I put it out, but I don't know when they're coming. So is there a number or a way, let's say something does come up and they're like, wow, it I noticed that the schedule's off, and it's been maybe more than once, not a holiday, but they notice something's off. Who should they call to let you know that, especially since it's external, it's a contractor. So like you said, you may not know unless people, let you know that there's something going on.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can call our Public Works main line or use my RWC to report it. Generally speaking, it'll get filtered to me if it's a street sweeper issue, and I can kind of investigate and dig into it a little bit. So yeah, but feel free to either give our Public Works mainline a call or use the My RWC app to report it.
Now, Adrian, I think you're the one that helped me when we had that issue with PG&E at Hudson and Jefferson a few years back. Were you the one who was working on that with me?
Myself, a lot of people.
Yeah, boy, that was
Dan
something.
There was a lot of people involved with it. I was just one cog, but sure. Yeah,
well, we certainly appreciate it, because that's a main thoroughfare for us. And when those lights were out for so long, and it was nice to work with you on that. Thank you for getting that fixed. We appreciate that. That was a big project. So could you tell us a little bit about, the city trees that you see like in medians? And I know there was like the new street improvement over by one of our parks. How does the city water the public trees? Is it changing because of the drought? How does that work?
Sure. So typically what we'll do is for newly planted trees, we'll put them on a watering schedule. They typically get watered at least once a week. And in many cases for those newly planted trees, there'll be gator bags, and we'll just it's a 20-gallon gator bag. We'll fill it up and go on our way and kind of water the next tree. As the tree gets a little bit more mature, we scale back the watering. And in fact, we work with City Trees, and they're working with an outfit to help water some of our little bit several years old type trees where it's been in the ground for a couple of years but still needs a little bit of water. So we'll water those. Those are currently on a once every other week, and then as the tree matures even beyond a couple of years, then that's when we take it off of any city watering. But I want to preface it. I want to say that the first, when we do plant a tree, the first thing we try to do is try to talk to the resident or the property owner in front of where the tree is going to be planted, and see if they're willing and able to water the tree. Because although we can get out there maybe once a week due to based on our current staffing and funding, any watering can help. So if a resident's willing and able to just bring out their hose and give it a little bit of water, that really helps, and allows the city to take care of more trees, essentially, because it's as you can imagine, it's fairly cost inefficient for us to drive to each individual tree and stop the truck, pull out a hose, water it, roll the hose back up, drive to the next tree. And so it's just labor intensive. So if anytime we can get a partnership with the residents, that's greatly appreciated.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, I mean, I know that you guys are always working. I mean, staffing has been cut tremendously, and we realize how hard you work. And so we're always looking for ways that we can partnership. And speaking of partnership, I want to thank TK, because as some of you may remember, our neighborhood association was instrumental in raising the community awareness about the sewer service fees on the property taxes. And we were very concerned about that, because we have a lot of elderly residents who live in our neighborhoods, and they're not connected to the internet so much, and they're not attending meetings, and to get a statement on their bill without knowing, that could cause some hardship and certainly some fees. So when after that, I was so I'm just so thankful to TK. After our input, he went back and worked on a way to develop an assistance program to offset any fees that may result from that, and to get more time for education. And that just goes to show that when the community has concerns and you bring it to them, he worked a whole year trying to work on the concerns that we brought forward. So I just that passed last month. And I just wanted to thank TK for all of his efforts to really address our concerns about our neighbors who may have been affected by that. So thank you, TK.
Sure. No, thank you, Joanna. Actually, I really thank you for your time and effort to spearheading the whole program, because we cannot do it alone, right? So we are the one side of the coin, and then we only see one side of our side of the approach, technical part of it and process and procedure. But the human side of it, you brought it to us, and then you really explained it to us about what is needed to have this program moving forward for a win-win situation. And this is kind of like a result of that we were able to secure $100,000 set aside for the sewer rate assistance program, that those who are unable to pay for the lump sum payment or the twice a year payment that coming down on your way. So like $500 per payment. So this is the kind of like funding mechanism that we created for the community based on your input. Without your input, this is not going to be happen, and then people will have like some sort of wondering that are they going to be having no safety net attached to it, And like this is kind of like collaboration with all the neighborhood association, various city department, like revenue services, like city manager office. Darren and Jennifer are also instrumental for the getting message out to the community through all the social media. And a lot of people from public works behind the scene working and making this happen. So I'm really happy to see that the community ease of mind on the whole new change. And then like end of the day, my hope is that we can minimize possible rate increase throughout the time in the future while we're maintaining the infrastructure at the best it can be. So that's kind of like it's great working relationship, and probably like my years in Redwood City, this is one of the best input that we receive from the community, and make it majority of people happy with one of the changes made by the city. So thank you. Yeah.
Wow, that's a big compliment, because you've been here a long time, TK, right?
Yeah.
How long have you been here?
No, because usually, I really got fist from the community that, this guy did something wrong again, or he raised the rate again. Because generally my part is that, always been go talk to the community about raising rates and the various things. So that's kind of like people see only one side of me, but my job is to making sure, like for example, then going back to the Edgewood fire that happening, majority of people don't know that. If it is that happened about 10 years ago, I'd be really worried. The reason being is that we don't have enough water to fight prolonged fire. Okay, so at that time, that day fire happened, fire chief called me, and we both are in a peace of mind because we have now like a brand new California water tank and the California Way and the Jefferson. That is like like about $10 million that public will invested to have it 750,000 gallons brand new water tank that available for community, so that water pressure and the water volume is available to fight prolonged fire. Like when those are like when we propose for it, the majority of people opposed to it because of this hillside and ugly, and although that it's already been a water tank previously built many years ago, wooden tank that we removed about 15 years ago, and now we built it a new one. So that was like a great feeling that a community going to have a good fire protection with the water. So some of the the rate that community pay for the water and sewage charge this kind of like behind the scene, but it's kind of like happening. Otherwise, we might have to ask for the California water, Cal water from the Woodside to provide us water through the flexible hose and connecting between the hydrants and all that. And then, that is also mercy of the Cal water water system. They have to serve their community also. So now having a 750,000 gallon water on the top of the hill is priceless. So those are the kind of like I wanted to spread the message to, especially like the Farm Hill community, that like your community is being taken care of with a good infrastructure.
So can you say again, where is it located? Because I'll include that in the blog post. Where is it located?
It's California Way and Jefferson.
And Jefferson, and that went in when?
So it's completed beginning of this year. So
that's
it's
wonderful.
3 years of construction, and we spent over $10 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for looking out for us, TK. We appreciate it. And see, these things are happening. We're not even aware of it, right?
Yes.
And unfortunately, I think that there's, fires are unfortunately going to be here to stay, and the situation. So it's that planning in advance
Right.
and thinking about what worst case scenario is. And we certainly appreciate that. Now, speaking real quick, and then I'll let you go. I realize it's a Friday night, and so I appreciate you and Adrian being here. So speaking about water, what can we do as far as drought goes? I know that there was an article in the paper today, and there's talk that different cities are doing different things. So what are what's happening in Redwood City related to the drought, and what can we do to do our part to conserve water?
So that all these water-related activity consumptions are managed by the California Regional Water Quality Control Board. So the California Regional Water Quality Control Board has like an authority over all the water agency, including us, to give us a guidance. So that beginning of this year, actually January, due to the low snowpack on Sierra, they told us we need to reduce 15% of water usage compared with our consumption in 2019. So our agency has we have a urban water management plan, has a prescription of how step-by-step reduction that we have to do. So that 15% is equal to Redwood City, for Redwood City is a stage 2 emergency. So basically stage 2 drought emergency, and we are voluntarily asking community to reduce the water usage as much as possible. Just we give a general guideline. I think my department sent out a postcard a few weeks ago, and it should hit most of the home by now, saying that just like an average 1% for the domestic use, about 45 gallons a day. That's quite a bit of water for individual use, for domestic use, and then minimize the irrigation for down to twice a week. So that's twice a week, just so that we know that people care about their plant and their lawn and all that stuff. So those are expensive to replace too. So we asking them to reduce to twice a week irrigation. So that's what we are requesting, community voluntary basis. That's also based on we are reporting water board with our water usage, and they're monitoring it. So they can ratchet it up to the stage 3. And then we will have a different set of the requirement coming, maybe no watering for outdoor irrigations and things like that might happen, but way to be seen, because we try our best to reduce water usage as much as possible.
Gail.
I just had a little comment. A number of years ago at Stafford Park, the Wednesday night concerts, there were people giving out blue buckets to collect water while you're waiting for your shower to get warm. Well, my bucket finally died. It's a plastic bucket and it cracked. And I did send off an email to somebody to say, that was a really good program. You get people invested, you save a little water here, you save a little water there, you put tips on the bucket. I think it would be really great to kind of, give people the little buckets again to collect their water.
Totally.
That's an excellent idea, because remember when we went to the compost with, I think it was a BFI or maybe Recology, and everyone got those little composting things to put by their sink. That sparked people's interest, and people started to compost, and it got people separating their garbage more, and we all benefited from that. What do you think the chances are, TK, of bringing something like that back?
That's absolutely possible, because of our water conservation program. They do have these what we call conservation kits, so that water saving shower head, and then also the little testing kit for the toilet leaking, so that there's a little pill that you can put it in the toilet bowl and see your toilet getting blue. Then that means that you have your flapper need to be replaced. And then we had a bucket a while ago, but we haven't had for a while. So this is a great reminder from Gail that I will pass it to the superintendent and manager water conservation to look into Redwood City logo water bucket, so that when people wait for the hot water to come, they can collect the water and things like that. So definitely.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Remind people to shower with a friend.
Yes.
Okay, and then my last question is, is the city still offering like rebates if you pull out your like lawn and you want to use like decorative rock or native plants that don't, or is the city still offering that program?
Yes, yes, we do. We do. So the only thing is that you have to have a lawn that currently functioning, meaning that, in place. So don't do anything before you submit an approval, because we need to come out and measure the size of the lawn to provide you with the rebates. So yes, we do. So approximately like 1 square feet, you get about $2.50. Don't quote me, but approximately that's the amount that you get. So for the rebate.
Every little bit helps, and it's an
Sure.
incentive. It makes people think like, okay, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to get this back. And it makes you feel like you're not only doing something good, but you're getting something in return. So that's an excellent program. Regina or Chris, do you have any, Gail, do you have any additional questions? I mean, Public Works does a lot of things for us. So yes.
Recology also has a smaller green bin. In the wintertime, I hate putting the kitchen waste into the big bin because it stinks after a week. They actually have a smaller can that you can call and get for your kitchen waste.
Yes, they do. Yes.
Yeah.
That's excellent information. Does anyone else have any general questions about Public Works? Want to know how something works or isn't working?
Yeah, I just had, it seems to me on the water issue, I mean, and not to, sometimes you'll see a neighbor, like I have a neighbor that just doesn't care and he waters the sidewalk. Yeah, I think he has OCD. He waters the sidewalk, he waters his Porsches and whatever his cars, and he nonstop the water's running, which you can save a gallon here or there, but yet you've got this person who's, it makes you sick, right? All the hundreds of gallons. So I don't know if you're looking at some kind of more, ramping up the tiered structure where, because I just firmly believe everybody's coin operated. So, you make it more expensive after a certain threshold. So it really kind of, asymptotically, it goes way up after a certain amount of usage when or maybe people have to kind of say how many people live in your house and then it's based on that, or I don't know. But it seems like if there's not I guess to Joanna's point, there's the carrot and then there's the stick, right? So there's the carrot of, rip out your lawn and put something in and that'll make you feel good. And then there's also by the way, if you are using, tens of thousands of gallons a month and you have one person in your house, you're going to have a stick. So I don't know if that's something you guys are looking at, but.
Right. So our current water rate is already built in tier system. They go by 1 to 5 units, so they're different rate. And then 5 unit to 10 unit is kind of like cheaper, more expensive as they go. So they're not like a flat rate.
No, I know, but it's not that painful.
Right.
It's not like double or anything, right?
Right. Yes, definitely. So because again, we have to balance with the requirement of Proposition 218 situation, so that we have to proportionate to what we're charging. But like this is for some agency, like East Bay Mud, for example, they have a drought charge, so that you are using more than average. There's a kind of drought charge that they built onto it.
Yeah, that's what I meant, like a surcharge. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'm sure you haven't talked about it. Sure.
We'll definitely look into that kind of options, so that those abusers are going to get paid for it, but at the same time, saver are going to stay benefit.
And one thing that I've observed when I've taken walks, like some of these remodels, these especially Thomas James, they do really these mammoth mega mansions. And I was walking by one and they're rolling out the sod, putting in grass. And I don't know, I'm hoping that new construction can come under some kind of regulations that you just don't get to put in a lawn. You have to put in drought tolerant plants.
Yes, so that depend upon amount of the new construction or the developments, we are required to install the green infrastructure. So the green infrastructure is basically so all the runoff that capture into a permeable surface and going into the ground, so that kind of somewhat reduce the size of the lawn, because it used to be from the home to the sidewalk, fill up with the lawn and then make it look like you live in a fairway, right? But now it's like, more and more like a green infrastructure requirement will reduce the number of lawn. And that is kind of like approach that we are doing. And then also we are educating, like we have the irrigation controller that based on the weather pattern, not like a mechanical that you set it and just rain or shine the same amount of water spraying. Now that sensing through the Wi-Fi about you have a windy day, they're going to stop watering. You have a rainy day, they stop watering. Those are available for the community for almost free. There's a ratio irrigation controller available to community also. Those are kind of like smart controllers that come in play, and that definitely help reduce water use.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is there any help for a homeowner that had a water leak, but it was not just a little leak, it was 3,000 gallons in 3 hours?
Yes.
Something broke in the bathroom, and by the time my grandson came home, he was house sitting for my ex-husband. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, laundry room, the hallway, everything was flooded. So I haven't seen, the water bill hasn't come yet. But I called the city right away and they told me exactly how much water was lost during that time period.
Correct. Yes. So you can apply for what we call a leak credit. So that is like once in a while, city will allow you to provide a leak credit, because this is not you're wasting it. Unfortunately, it happened, and then we will provide you leak credit. So that amount, even though you wasted 3,000 gallons of water, you may not ended up paying. We will going back to charge your normal pattern. So that whatever that you normally use, that's going to be, and that it's going to be credit out from the 3,000.
So I'll wait for the second bill to come. I have the one from before, but the new one hasn't come yet. And where do I apply for that?
So when you receive the bill, that you see that 3,000 gallon consumption there, and then you can apply for the leak credit.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So Terrence, I'm sorry, this is kind of a personal question, but who do we reach out to at Recology as the CEO, or I don't know if I need to reach out to City Council? Recology is not picking up our blue bins. It's been twice this last month, right? And I called, like, our pickup day was yesterday, and they said they would do it. They didn't. This morning I called, they said, okay, we'll do it today. They didn't do it. Same thing happened a month ago. And our entire block on Crompton, if you come by right now, you'll see all the blue bins out. It's the second day. And they pick up the black ones and the green ones, but the blue ones don't. And they just don't care. And this has happened multiple times. And I'm at the point where, I'm getting all our neighbors, and we're going to demand a credit on our garbage bills because they're not doing their job. And they don't care, the people they talk, after you wait on hold with the COVID excuse, after an hour, however long it takes, they don't really seem to be responsive. Is there somebody that we can reach out to?
Yes.
City Council?
Yeah. No, actually, this Public Works, we are the liaison between the community and the Recology. So that's an issue like that is sometimes, generally taken care of by the Recology customer service, but it seems to be, it's not happening.
They're not. Yeah.
Repeating.
Who do I reach out to?
So send it to me, and I will connect to Recology, their general manager, to make sure that the community concerns are addressed. So if you have some sort of like a photo or something that proving so those are
I just want to add that we have Recology up where I'm at now at the Russian River as well, and it sounds like it's a systematic problem because our garbage day came and they didn't pick up the blue, and I'm like, when did they start picking up blue on the following day? Like how? So I think it's a systematic problem because it seems kind of coincidental that it's happening in both places with the same company.
It's not even on the second day now, right? So this will be the third day tomorrow where we haven't picked it up, and it's not good to have all these bins sitting out here day after day after day.
No, totally understand. That the reason being is that we are facing two major issues, right? Everyone hear about the Great Resignation, so that all the experienced truck drivers are retiring and then moving away, and then new generation wanted to come in to become a garbage truck driver, and they are short greatly, and then COVID is not helping as also, the rising of the COVID, even though they drive alone, but they, infection coming through the family and events and all that stuff. So, used to be, we got a little bit of sniffle and then, go and cough, we still come to work and function. But now any kind of COVID symptom, we just say time out, stay home. And then that is kind of like a,
yeah, I mean, it would be better just to do, maybe just do recycling every other week.
Yeah.
So at least people know that it's not going to get picked up this week if that's the situation, if they're short staffed. Anyway, enough said. I'll read.
No, but like in that particular situation, that repeated pattern, we are going to help you, at least pay attention on the happening so that we can take it all the way to the general manager or the ecology and making sure that at least, okay, once or twice is kind of like what has happened, but I don't want to keep repeating this. So feel free to send me an email and then we will take care of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Terrence.kyaw@redwoodcity.org.
Yeah, T as in Tom, KYAW@redwoodcity.org.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Well, thank you so much, TK and Adrian, for being here. I know it's a Friday night, and so I'm very grateful for your time. And as always, we learned a lot, and we always enjoy having you here. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank
Have
you.
a great
Thank you.
weekend.
Thank you.
All right. So we will move on to our next agenda item, which is district election. So that time is coming up this month. I believe it's going to be maybe next week where the filing period opens, where people start pulling papers. And we're going to have an election in District 5, 6, and 2. Is that right, Darren? Do I got my districts right? I think it's 5, 6, and 2. So we've got one person. We have a newly created District 5. And there's one person who's filed an intention to run there. Her name is Kaya Aiken. Some of you may know her. So far, no one has filed. No one else has filed for that. Diane Howard is interested in running again. I think this is going to be her 37th time. So if you know of anybody who lives in that area who's interested in running, I think it'd be nice to give somebody else a turn. I just think that we need to get new folks in there. And so if you know of anybody, encourage them. We need representation, even though it's not our district. They do serve us, citywide. And so, and then our current mayor is made the assembly race runoff. And so her district will be open. And I hear some chatter about some interested folks, but so far nobody's filed. So again, if you know of a qualified person or someone who, is like-minded, who really is involved in our community, please encourage them to run, because we all benefit from having elected officials who really care about being here and being with us and not really having goals to move up or move elsewhere, right? Like, we need people from Redwood City who care about Redwood City and want to stay here, that don't want to, one day be our state senator or, Congress person. So
Preferably not developers either.
so it's important, and now is the time, because there's going to be like this 2-week window, and if nobody files, then guess what? There's no competition, there's no real race, and that's not good. That's not what our democracy is based on, right? We want people to compete and tell us what they're going to do for us and how they can improve our lives. And then I also wanted to let you know that I serve on the, most of you know, I serve on the San Mateo County Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commission. And one of my fellow commissioners, who recently graduated from Menlo Atherton High School and is he's a rising sophomore at Stanford, is running for that seat on the Sequoia Union High School District. And his name is Sathvik Nori. And he's very impressive. So please, if you know of anybody who lives in District D, check him out, and encourage folks to check him out and see what he stands for. It'd be nice to have a young kid on there who, has got a new perspective and stuff. So is there any other local election information or that you want to talk about or share? Anybody else have any input on local elections? Regina.
So if the mayor is running for assembly, if she loses, can she come back?
No, that's the good news.
thank
So
you.
the good news is that she will be gone, and so she will be moving. You can't run for 2 seats at once.
Oh, good.
And I don't really think she ever really wanted to be here anyway, right? So I think she always had goals to be elsewhere. So no, she won't be. Of course, if she loses, she may want to come back, but I'm not sure if Redwood City would be where she would want to come back. But no, so her seat would be open. That's District 2, and so that's sort of like the Centennial downtown neighborhood.
So do you think then, while she was riding through the parade, that was her farewell?
You know, I think that at every opportunity, Regina, I think most of us here know it's no secret that at every opportunity she tries to promote, and even if it means exploiting her children. So,
But the point is that all the other members agreed to what was suggested, and she straight went against it. I have pictures of her and the kids in the car, including her husband. It was not a hometown holiday.
Yeah,
she created such a problem.
They never what? Sorry, what did you? I didn't hear what she said. They never what?
But the 4th of July parade, the city council people were invited, and I got a phone call saying they want to bring their grandchildren. And I said, no, we haven't allowed kids because it's collector cars. They don't have seatbelts in the back. Kids are supposed to be seatbelted. And 2 people from the council contacted me, and I said no, and they agreed to it. Well, the mayor, who's supposed to set an example, just ignored the whole thing. She showed up in the lineup area late on top of it. So the person that was monitoring, because I had instructed them, if she shows up with the kids, she has a choice of standing on the sidewalk with the kids, or she's not going to be in the parade. Except she showed up late, so the lead person was already driving the float, the Miss California float. Okay, she came late. Lizette never even responded to the information. I mean, these are private cars. I have to get 11 convertibles for these people, and they just plain ignored it. And when I saw Climate Magazine and her and the kids and her husband in the car, I almost lost it. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's a safety rule or whatever. If I invite you for coffee to my house and you bring your dog after I tell you don't bring the dog, you have a choice of leaving the dog outside hitched up to a post, or you can both go home.
Yep.
It's not fair.
You're right. Yep. Not to mention, they said that why are we celebrating? Lizette called this a weird holiday, and Giselle said we shouldn't be celebrating or something like that effect. Yeah,
I mean,
which
there's such a problem. Then she called me, and we had conversations about that. Then she claims she didn't get the papers, which I personally delivered, and repeatedly had to send a parking pass and the driving instruction. If you're in the city council and you don't know how to get from Whipple on Aguilo to 801 Brewster, we have a problem. She created such a problem. I got another phone call today from City Hall.
It's really unfortunate.
My God, she is not getting away with it.
Because we have other elected officials who have children, right? Like Kevin Mullen has twins.
Yeah, and then she
has a young son. So everybody followed the rules except this one particular person, and that's just not right.
The third conversation I had with her, she claimed, well, I don't understand because Kevin Mullen said the twins in the car. That's when I screamed. I go, no, he didn't. Because when they were first little, 3 months old, he asked me if they could. And I said, no, they would have to be in car seats backwards facing. And he said, fine, his wife was on the sidewalk. She now claims that the twins were in the car this year. I mean, that is she's a liar. I'm sorry. And this has nothing to do with politics, okay? It's just not right to then say he had the kids in the car when he didn't.
I'm sorry, Regina, I know how hard you work, and I know you work with a very small team, and you've done this for years and years and years, and you do.
She's the only one that has ever been a problem. Alicia Aguirre has grandchildren that weren't allowed in there. Diane already had, and I had conversations with those people, and they're stuck to. Don't even call it rules, call it common courtesy. If you're invited to something and it says you and one guest, that doesn't mean your whole family. It's not It's not Christmas in the park, you know? It was terrible. It was really terrible.
I'm sorry that
Sorry.
you had to go through that, you know, yeah, it's really unfortunate. Some people just are, the rules, I guess, don't apply to them, or they think that they don't, which is not good for
At
all.
all levels of government, right? So, yeah.
Right. But the thing is, the way we line up the cars is like the mayor, the vice mayor, and then everybody the way in order how long they've been on there. So when you don't show up, the whole thing is out of whack because the announcers, when they're new, they go strictly by the script that they get. We have 11 announcer stations. So if you're supposed to be car number 2 and you're not car number 4, somebody that's just reading the script is going to announce the wrong name. And then Lisette never even responded. So they'd taken away the car already. We took away the sign. She had the crummiest sign of anybody in the whole parade. And she deserved it. I'm sorry. It's not easy. I mean, there are a lot of people involved in it.
Yeah,
And for the top government officials to act like that is outrageous.
well, I'm
that's
sorry you
what I
had to go
today.
through that. And I hear it was beautiful as always, but
It
I'm,
was.
yeah, thank you for everything. That was actually on our list of our first announcements, was to thank you for all of your efforts and to talk about the parade. And for anyone who's going to be listening on YouTube, please, Regina's always looking for dependable volunteers to help with our annual parade and festival. How can people get a hold of you, Regina?
They can go onto our website and sign up.
And the website is?
Peninsula Celebration or parade.org.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So Darren, what updates do you have for us?
Yes, I have a few updates. My internet is a little shaky right now, so I hope you can all hear me. Okay, the first update I have along the lines of the elections coming up in November, the city is proposing charter updates to the city charter. So city council will be considering placing a measure on the November 8th ballot for local voters to consider amending the city's charter. The city is looking for you to share your thoughts on potential amendments before the July 25th city council public hearing. And you can check out the proposed charter amendments, and they'll be available soon on the Redwood City webpage. And the website that the charter amendments are going to be at is going to be redwoodcity.org/charteramendments. So I'll go ahead and link that in the chat for everyone. The next update, or any questions about that?
No, I actually made a list of the amendments. Let me see here if I can pull that up. Oops. I know the charter amendments that are going to be made is one, to reduce the mayor's time from 2 years to 1 year, to make the change from at-large elections to district elections, and then to align our off-year elections to occur in November. Am I missing anything else, Darren? I think those were the charter amendments.
Yeah, those are it. Did you mention electing by districts instead of at large?
Yes.
Okay, then yeah, you got it.
So that's what we're going to be talking about. The only thing that community members might be interested, I mean, in my opinion, I mean, the district elections has already happened. We've already moved. I think they're just sort of cleaning up on those things. But I do think there's opportunity for input if anyone is opposed to the change for the mayors, 1 year versus 2. There is some differences there because the mayor sets our agenda. And so if we get a bad mayor, we may want him out in a year, but if we have one that is actually working for us, which we haven't had in a while, we might want him to stay. So that might be, people might want to be, engaged in that. So go ahead.
Joanna, wasn't there also something about allowing non-residents to be on commissions?
I didn't see that. Is that right, Darren?
Yeah, I know that was something that was considered, but I don't believe that made it to the proposed amendments.
It didn't. Okay.
Well, I think that's.
I was curious, are these all getting voted on as a package or individually?
I believe it's a package, so they all have to pass.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
that kind of makes it hard, huh? Yeah, I think that's probably related to the cost. Do you think, Darren, is that why it's done that way?
I'm actually not sure. We were just talking about it the other day and why it's like that. And I agree, it is kind of funky to have it all into one package, but I mean, that may be something that can be commented on, to the city clerk's office before the city council hearing.
Thank you. What's up next?
Yep. So next up is a survey for fire department. They're not here right now. They were earlier, but maybe they could have jumped in. But I'll just go ahead and promote it for them. So they want to hear from the community. Basically, they're having a survey for their top priorities and hopes. So they're asking, what are your top priorities and hopes for the Redwood City Fire Department? And they're looking for your feedback on services, expectations, and priorities for the department as they reimagine how to best provide services to the community. And also in relation to the fire department, they're also hiring firefighters and paramedics. So please spread the word and apply if you're interested. And that recruitment ends on July 17th.
Which is coming right up, but that's on a Sunday. I understand that there's been some changes to the qualifications that our firefighters need to have. I was at a meeting last week where they mentioned that Redwood City will now only be requiring a high school diploma, and there won't be the added expenses of the specific college degrees or the college credits and the fire safety courses needed, that the city is going to pick up the tab on that. But there was some confusion because when you go to apply, it's like you still need those qualifications. So I think they're still trying to work out some kinks on that because it's still listed as a qualification. So
Okay.
I like the idea, and if it can be truly equitable, I think that comes a long way because we need our public safety officers to come from our communities, and we have kids in underserved neighborhoods who may not want to, or have the ability to go to college, and so to serve as a public safety, to serve in public safety in our community is very valuable and will allow them to have a living wage and a pension and an ability to stay in the area and build a nice life for themselves and their future family. So I fully support that. I put the link in the chat for the survey.
Oh, thank
What's
you.
up next?
Yes. Next up is, let me see. Along the lines with what Terrence was mentioning about the rebate programs. So we just have many different rebate programs to support the climate action plan. And that includes rebates towards electric leaf blower. You can get $250 back, $250 for electric lawn care equipment, and even $500 towards new home electrification upgrades, such as heat pumps and electrical panel upgrades. So that's a good website to check out. It's going to be redwoodcity.org/environment, where you can check out all the rebates. So
That's great.
as well. That's it for the updates. And do you have any questions?
Anybody?
Good.
I was really happy to see that the firefighters contract finally got settled. I think it was 253 days that they work without a contract. So we were super pleased to see, thank God they were working with a contract when that fire happened. My heart would have been broken to know that they were in that 103-degree heat, and not have a contract. So I was, and that we played a big part in that because our neighborhood is I think we are the highest fire, danger area in the city. So I was really pleased with that. And then also, I just wanted to mention that the results for the people's budget are out. And Darren, you want to share what those were? I know there was a 10-week mentorship program for middle school kids on drug and alcohol prevention, which is very valuable. There's also increased shower services for our unhoused. And then what were the other two, Darren?
The other two were to add funds to the city housing budget. And that's to support and implement housing initiatives such as the anti-displacement strategy. And the other one was the El Camino bike lanes. And that's to give bike lanes on 3 blocks between Maple and Wilson Street.
Thank you so much. And I want to give a shout out to Gail because Gail had an idea that she submitted, which was a great idea. And I just want to thank you, Gail, for putting that in there. And while it wasn't selected, it was a great idea. And we appreciate the fact that you took the time to do that.
Well, it was actually from my group, the Fossil Free Mid-Peninsula. We all worked on it. We actually submitted 3 different proposals. Only one got to the top 100, but I would really like to know how many votes we got. Is there any way of seeing how our proposal actually ranked in case you ever do this again? You know, it might help people to rewrite, reframe their project. I mean, I think it's great, the projects that were selected, but there were so many projects that ultimately had a lower budget. And I was just thinking, wow, you know, if we'd had 20 different things that filled the $1 million, it would have hit so many different parts of the community. I mean, these 4 are great, but there were so many other great ideas as well.
Yeah, and that's really good feedback, and that's something that we can definitely think about towards the next people's budget, because we do plan to do it again. So that's something we can think about. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that would be a great idea, right? You spread the wealth for the greater good. I mean, even if you put a cap on it, right? Let's say the ideas had a cap of $100,000 each, right? At least you could get 10. And then maybe if people, you know, knew that as their, because also I noticed, Darren, something that made it difficult to vote when you're trying to figure out, okay, how much is this? Because you're adding it up because you don't want to go over that million. The gap, the estimations for these projects, sometimes the gap was like double, right? Like from 12 to 40,000. So that's a huge gap. So I wonder, I know it was our first time trying it, but I wonder if in the future there might be a way to like scale down those estimates a bit more so we can be a little bit more creative in what we choose or how many we choose.
Right, I agree. There may be some more work needed beforehand to do better calculations.
This is going to be maybe this is never a fun exercise, but being a finance person, I've done lots of meetings on this topic. You know, it's the concept, I'll just make it simple, zero-based budgeting, right? So we have all these things we want to spend money on, but is there a way to look at things that we're spending money on that the community doesn't think are as important as the ones that have been mentioned here, right? So I'm going to give something that I just look at, you know, I know the diversity, equity, and inclusion officer is $200,000 person, right? I'm like, is that more important than giving $200,000, which that doesn't even include benefits and everything else, to, you know, underserved people, right? So as opposed to staff or an overhead costs. Or another one is, you know, $100,000 for artwork, for an artwork project. Or I think we have an ordinance that said we pay 1% of any new buildings towards public art. And my artwork is from Cost Plus and probably costs $80, you know, in my house. So I don't really, you know, I mean, maybe everybody values that. It's not my choice, but the community's choice. Do we want to spend money, you know, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars a year on artwork? And I know we have a public art commission that spends a lot of money. Is that more important than some of the things that, Gail, the things you're referring to in terms of projects, or Regina or whatever? Sometimes you got to look at what you're spending money on and what can we get rid of that, right? And I always think of fire and police as to me the most important things, and I want to make sure they have all the resources they need. But that's just me, and maybe some of this other stuff is in a great economy, nice to have, but not as important. And so. I don't know if there's a way to integrate the zero-based budgeting concept, but what do we get rid of in addition to what do we add?
Well, I wanted to talk about that because the way the proposals were put up, you basically got one partial sentence. You couldn't click on them and get more information. So in the preparation for the proposal, I had to write a whole paragraph of what it would do and how it would affect the community, but people couldn't read that. So, you know, we were really kind of voting blind and not getting the education that could have opened our eyes, like, well, you know, a drinking fountain or a charging station for wheelchairs. I mean, like, I didn't even know that was the thing. Yeah, let's do that. You know, there's really some education that could go into these proposals.
Yeah, and I think a more well-developed like catalog of what these projects are also raises awareness. Even if they don't win, it raises awareness that these are things, and maybe there's nonprofits or community groups that could fill in that gap, right? That could provide like the 10-week mentoring program for youth. Maybe there's someone else who could provide that, and that idea is sparked because they read it in the catalog.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. Now, there's a segue here also, Chris. The city council will be discussing the budget on June 13th at their meeting. So if you want to give input on the budget, I know you attend frequently. So if anyone has any ideas on where and how, or how our monies shouldn't be spent, or what our priorities are and want to speak up, that's our next council meeting, I believe. Isn't that right, Darren?
Right.
Okay, perfect. All right, is there anything, I know that we're already at 8:30. I tried to pack a lot in because we skipped a month. Is there any new news that you want to share? Any concerns that are happening in the neighborhood that we should address before we close?
I just want to say one thing, and I've spoken about this a couple times at city council, and I think I'm trying to make as many people aware of it as possible. So what bugs me, right? I talked about the cost side, right? Trying to look at costs, but there's also the revenue side. And the city of Redwood City is amongst the lowest of any of our neighboring communities regarding business taxes, right? So we pay, it's a very regressive tax, right? So right now it's like $80 per employee that a business pays per year approximately. And then it's capped at $6,000 a year. So to me, as I said at city council, this is like, can you imagine if you have a personal income tax where it's capped at $6,000? So somebody that makes $100,000 or $1 million or 10 million or $1 billion, they all pay $6,000, right? So the more you make, it's capped. I mean, why should Oracle and Box and EA and all these other companies pay the same as some small business that's, got 80 employees? And it's all the other cities around it. So that I think collectively it's about $2 million in Redwood City in business taxes, right? To fund all the needed and you look at San Francisco's $180 million, and San Jose is tens of millions, and Oakland. And a lot of cities are changing it so it's a more progressive tax structure. Oakland has something on the ballot. Belmont has something on the ballot. Santa Clara is changing it so that they're getting rid of their cap. Palo Alto's implementing it. I mean, all these communities are building, changing, but we're stuck in a tax structure that's developed in 1990. Vice Mayor Reddy is super supportive of this. So she's asked me, and I've sent a bunch of emails to council, and I think there's been a couple other council members that seem to indicate interest. I got a message from Mayor Hale, but the more people that kind of, you've heard of not in my backyard, well, not in my back wallet, right? I mean, at some point, somebody's gonna have to pay for all this. And to me, the businesses are the ones that are creating these impacts around, needs for more housing and all the infrastructure and services that we want, police and fire, and they ought to be paying their fair share, and specifically the big businesses, not the small businesses.
I agree, because they're the ones who've exacerbated our infrastructure and the
roads,
housing imbalance. And so,
traffic.
I agree. And I
So
think
I don't know.
Council Member Lisette Espinoza Garnica is also in support of a business tax.
I agree with that too.
Yeah.
When you go down to Seaport Boulevard and see how many big companies there are, why should they be paying the same amount as some business downtown? That's not right,
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, you guys probably know about this Redwood Shores Life Sciences. They're building 19 million square feet of life sciences stuff, right? And I don't live there. I don't own property there. My girlfriend does, but that's going to be hell. I mean, can you imagine the traffic? I mean, even if you don't live there, it's going to affect all of us, right? 101. And they're not going to pay any business tax except for $6,000, right? That's ridiculous for the roads and everything else. So I think if whatever you guys can do to encourage, I'm speaking almost seems like every week at council about this, to try and make sure the finance committee, which is I think Mayor Giselle Hale and Alicia Aguirre, I forget her last name, and there's those two and one other person are on there to try and look at this and prioritize it, because otherwise if they don't pay it, we're going to pay it, because there's a lot of needs: affordable housing, public safety. We need to invest in this stuff.
So when that building is going up, just imagine how you get to Redwood Shores. One of our members lives in Redwood Shores. He tells me already, I'm not leaving after 3:30, then I have to hang around the office until 6 o'clock. It's terrible to even get in and out of there.
There's only 2 roads, Ralston and Holly, that's it, so.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
why I don't live over there. I like my freedom.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, Chris, and thank you for not letting that go. And so if anyone wants to lend their support, I mean, it's something we all agree on, and I don't know why it's taken so long to get action on it, especially with our neighboring cities already taking action. So yeah, thanks so much for your efforts on that, Chris. Is there anything else that we want to cover? I know Darren's like, it's Friday night, and so I want to make sure that he gets to go because I'm grateful for the time that he spends with us. I know that his time here with us is not his typical time on the clock with the city, so appreciate
No
that.
worries. No worries at all. Happy to be here.
Anything else? All
Great
right.
job. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you. Have a
Thank you.
great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you again. Take care.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
You.